One of the things that we wanted to do here on the site was make the place everybody accessible. Today you got a chance to speak to a great mind here, Brian Zisk, and we've encouraged our members on the site to ask questions, to be a part of it, to take advantage of the access that we can give them. So today we're going to be talking on the phone with a gentleman by the name of Tom Rout, who's a young manager. Tom, you are a manager. You tell me that you just started as a manager. You manage a band called The Fiction. Tell me what I can do to help you.
Been first band I've ever managed. Been doing it for about 10 months and sort of, making it up as I go along at the moment. And one of the things I'd like to do is sort of every time that the band are playing gigs, they're getting great reactions from the crowd, but we need bigger crowds, and I'd like to get them supporting some more established bands. And I'm not sure where I start looking for that, who I need to speak to, how I get that sorted out.
All right, let me ask you a couple of questions. You got Tim on the line now?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, then we got Mr. Tim Parsons. First, let me introduce Tim is, like I say, ran a company called Midland Concert Bros. We're on the phone with Tom Rout here, Tim. And his question is, he just started working with a young band called The Fiction. Can we play a little bit of The Fiction here real quick? Oh. There's The Fiction. All right, so we'll get a little taste of The Fiction. Tim's been working with this band for a few months now. They've been doing some gigs. They're looking to find a way to get on tour or do dates with more established bands. Any thoughts on that, Mr. Parsons?
Well, it's never been easier to get in contact with bands than it has been in the past. So you could easily follow Twitter, you could follow bands by Twitter, or you could follow the bands by Facebook, bands that you like or bands you think are suitable, and then you could tweet them or Facebook them with a link to the website or the track or the photograph or some other information you're trying to get across. Or you could contact a radio station that you think is particular to your particular band in terms of seeing what events they've got coming up that they might be co-promoting with other promoters, where they can put forward a local band to support on a bigger date. There's lots of, you just need to be tangential in your thinking. You need to be lateral in your thinking, because it's a big competition. You're competing against loads of other bands and loads of other circumstances, because most support slots for bigger bands either go to the same record company, the same management company, the same agency roster. So you're actually up against it more than you've got things going for you. Therefore, you need to be lateral in your thinking to try and gain an advantage over the system, if you like.
Let me ask you a question. Go ahead, Tom. You go ahead.
Well, I mean, do the bands themselves usually have much of a say over what's going on, or is it? I mean,
a huge amount. A huge amount. I mean, a lot of the. You'll know the right type of. Paul Weller with the Jam always used to have, and with Style Council, all used to have bands that he was interested in or he'd invested in or whatever. Same thing goes with Radiohead. Same thing goes with Coldplay. Same thing goes with loads of other bands that Oasis being another example. Neil. There's lots of other examples where, if you like, self-respecting bands who have their finger on the pulse are interested in giving people a leg up. And all of these bands, all of these artists are now actually accessible through Twitter. So in the past, you used to have to
I think that's a great point that Tim makes there, Tom, is that as a manager of a band in my day gig, I managed a band, and so many times the bands that we took out on the road with us weren't necessarily the biggest selling band. The Incubus guys were never particularly interested in the record company politics that Tim alluded to. Put this band on here because it'll help us with Sony. And so oftentimes people would ask me how band X, Y, or Z wound up on the tour, and I would always tell them FOB, friend of band. So it's not something that can be underrated there. And as Tim pointed out, you have so many great ways to get your, not only an email or a Twitter in front of your favorite artist, but you can actually attach a video, you can attach your picture and so forth. So you got to be industrious, and it gets back to what we were talking about a little bit earlier about this notion of networking.
Yes.
And the tools.
If you're networking online, I mean, if you're promoting the band will want you on the tour.
I think it's good.
There's another way you can do it. You can almost do it by collective. So, for instance, if you know of other bands like yourself at the same sort of stage of development, and you all have the same sort of genre or whatever else, as a collective of, say, 4 or 5 bands, you can get together to all start approaching different avenues. In other words, you provide a one-stop solution for cool bands supporting a big act. And certainly, you know, you should think internationally. You shouldn't think just locally. You should be thinking, you know, the Incubus are an example on the West Coast. There's plenty of other Australian bands, South African bands, European bands. You know, support slots in Europe are probably going to cost you as much to do them in today's day and age as a UK one. And there are other markets in Europe, say for instance Germany, which is so much bigger than the UK market. So, you know, you shouldn't limit yourself in terms of just being one-dimensional in your thinking. That's, again, what I mean by lateral thinking.
I think that's great advice. Tom, did that answer your question?
That's great. Yeah, I was worrying about how I was going to find out all the names of the tour promoters and managers and everything, but I think, straight to the bands, that's a great solution for it. So.
Well, the biggest promoters and the biggest managers at the end of the day work for the bands, I'll have you know. Yeah. And so if you can make that one happen, it's a great thing.